Well, today we're going to look at making popovers. They look wonderful, don't they? See how nice and puffed up they are? I've tried almost every recipe that I can find on the internet, and mine have not puffed up like any of these recipes. But I have discovered the secret, and today I'm going to show it to you. The first thing we're going to do is to set our oven at 425 degrees. Also, make sure that your rack is set about mid-oven. It is highly recommended that you get a proper popover pan. As you can see, these are deeper than normal muffin tin pans and bigger at the top. That allows the popovers to pop up really nicely. These can be purchased online. I bought mine, I think, for about $20 online. Now, almost every recipe is identical except in the quantities of the ingredients, and that is just because you want to make more or less. You can, of course, increase the recipe. The one I'm making calls for 1 cup of milk, 2 eggs, 1 cup of flour, and a half a teaspoon of salt. Some leave out salt, some add butter to the recipe, but generally the mixture of milk and eggs and flour in ratio are the same as what I'm using in this recipe. This one will make 8 popovers in the popover pan I showed you. Now, one of the things that is important in the recipe I have discovered, and it says that in some of the recipes, and that is that the ingredient should be at room temperature. Well, if you want to leave your milk sitting out on the counter or your eggs for a couple of hours so that they come up to room temperature, that's fine, up to you. Me personally, I put my milk in the microwave oven for power level, mine's at 1200, at power level 5 for 1 minute. That just warms the milk up, and when it's mixed with the eggs, brings them up to approximately room temperature. One of the next steps is to add a bit of oil to the bottom of each one of your popover pans. So, in each one of the pans that I am going to be using, I put just enough canola oil to cover the bottom of the pan. It's approximately 3/4 of a teaspoon of oil into each of the containers. Next comes the mixing of the ingredients. In the past, I have used a high-speed beater to mix up the ingredients, and it didn't always turn out uniform. So what I use now is I just use a whisk to beat up my ingredients and add the milk to the heated up milk to the eggs. Mix that together. Add my salt to my recipe. And then subsequently add the flour. And we'll continue to beat that until we have a nice smooth mix. Now that the batter is done, it should be fairly runny. It should not be too thick. Make sure that it is like that. And that is just perfect. Now we get to one of the critical points of making sure your popovers pop up nice and high. And that is to put your popover pan with the oil in it in your preheated 425 degree oven for exactly 10 minutes. 10 minutes seems to be the magic number for me. So put it in for 10 minutes. It may even start slightly smoking, depending on the oil you're using, of course, as well. So our pan's going in the oven for 10. Here's another one of those secrets that I was mentioning earlier with your batter. Just before you add the batter to the pan, Mix it up really good, get a lot of air in it, a lot of bubbles. As much as you can. When you see the batter, you should see that it will have lots and lots of air bubbles in it. These air bubbles is where, when the batter starts heating up quickly, will go and expand to cause your Yorkies to pop up really good. So just make sure you see lots of air bubbles in the batter just before you pour it. And I mean just before you take that pan out and pour it in. Do one more mix up for it. Okay, the pan has been heating for about 10 minutes. It's got about 30 seconds left. So while we're just waiting for that to finish up, once again, stir up your batter, get lots of air bubbles in it so that it's nice and bubbly when you're going to put it into the pan. So make sure that you get lots of air into it by giving it that last stir just for the last few seconds of while the pan's heating up. Now our pan is heated up. Now the next important step is getting it filled quickly. So you do not want to hesitate and fill up your pan. You'll see that the pans are nice and hot. We don't want to hesitate. This batter does about 8 Yorkies. So now we put our pan back into the oven without any hesitation. And now we give it 30 minutes to cook. One of the other big things is that while it is cooking, do not peek, do not open the oven. You will deflate your popovers. So let them cook. Yes, you can turn on the light and have a look, but do not open the door. And here we have our wonderful popover. What? No, just joking. That's what I got when I did the recipe the old way. Stick around. Next couple of minutes we will show you the reveal for what they look like this time around. Ta-da! And this is the product the way they're supposed to pop up. And as you can see, they're all nice, popped up, steamy, and just excellent. 25 minutes in the oven. 25 minutes. And nothing more, because you want to make sure they don't collapse when you take them out, but you don't want them overcooked as well. So they're nice and ooey gooey in the middle, but nice and crispy and crunchy on the outside. There we have it. A popover recipe anybody can make, and it turns out the same every single time if you follow all of these steps. Thank you for watching. Oh, one final note as well. If you let these cool down and then freeze them right away, they can be taken out and used at any time. All you do is pop them back in a 350-degree oven for 10 minutes from frozen state, and they are still excellent.